This is my lesson plan for a 3rd grade class. The title is Animals and Their Habitats. The lesson objective is that students will be able to identify differences between habitats and the animals that live within them. They will understand that animals have special adaptations for the environment that they live in and will be able to argue with evidence that these features allow for optimal survival. The objective is 80% accuracy. The standards that I'm using for the next generation science standards are interdependent relationships and ecosystems. Students who demonstrate understanding can construct an argument with evidence that in a particular habitat some organisms can survive well, some survive less, and some cannot survive at all. For the Common Core standard, students represent and interpret data. They draw a scaled picture graph and a scaled bar graph to represent a data set with several categories, can solve 1- and 2-step problems using information presented in the scaled bar graphs. To measure the learning, students will be given a quiz that includes multiple choice questions, but will also require them to differentiate and examine data. They will also be given a homework assignment for further practice with examining, graphing, analyzing, and writing. The materials needed for this are going to be fact sheets that I provide the students, rulers, paper, colored pencils, stickers, and graph paper. The habits of mind are that students will be practicing metacognition and thinking flexibly. Through reflection, considering options, and viewing different perspectives, such as a comparison between a human's habitat and an animal's habitat, students will engage in both habits of mind. The vocabulary list needed for this lesson is habitat, organism, adaptation, population, predator, mate, lifespan, and birth rate. The I do part of this, which is a recommended time of 20 minutes. I'll start by showing pictures of some interesting animals to get the students' attention. For instance, they'll see a picture of a small-toothed sawfish or a hammerhead shark. Then I will discuss with students that we're going to learn about these cool animals and the environments that they live in. I would then ask the class if any of them knew anything about habitats that they would want to share. I would then do a quick lecture alongside with a PowerPoint that provides the class with pictures and videos of the animals and their habitats. After my presentation, I'll give each student fact sheets of the 4 animals I talked about in my presentation. This is just an example of a fact sheet that I created that I would use for this lesson. This is an animal fact sheet on geese, and it provides them with 10 facts about geese that they could use to create bar graphs with. So after the anticipatory set, the students will analyze and examine the fact sheets that they are provided with. They will then make bar graphs using materials I will provide them with. The bar graphs and picture graphs will pertain to the data and the facts that they have on each animal. They will use the colored pencils and the stickers to organize their graphs. For instance, they will graph life expectancy, birth rate, and other facts on animals. Then they will use their graphs to compare data. This is an example of a bar graph that a child could make. Obviously a little bit more detailed than this, but it's showing they're using a scale here, 0 through 25. They're showing life expectancy, birth rate, and they're comparing geese and dolphins. Throughout this process, I'm going to be walking around the classroom and help as needed. The students will also see a sample piece in the presentation at the beginning of the lesson. For additional help, a bar graph will be drawn on the board, serving as a visual aid. Periodically, I will stop the class and ask if there is any questions that need to be addressed. Also, as I walk around the class, I will be making sure that all students are on the right track. Any unfinished student work will be stapled with stamps on it to provide the students with the date it needs to be finished by. So at the end of the lesson, after the students have created their bar graphs, have analyzed their bar graphs, they will be given a short quiz in which they are provided with 2 new animal fact sheets. The quiz will include multiple choice where the students will be expected to identify and define key terms. For instance, what is a habitat or what is an organism? They will also be expected to examine, differentiate, and argue using the fact sheets as evidence that some animals survive well in certain habitats due to various adaptations, and other animals do not survive well in certain habitats. They will be expected to show their evidence by once again creating bar graphs. After the quiz, I will wrap up the lesson by briefly recapping with the students the information they covered. I will ask once again if they have any questions that they would like to be answered. I would also ask that we go around the room and everybody share what their favorite thing was that they learned from this lesson. After we do our class wrap up, and after we have a mini class discussion, I will assign homework. The students will be given more animal fact sheets One sheet will be for them to once again analyze and put into a graph, while the other fact sheet they will use to write a short narrative. They will write it in the perspective of the animal they have, and in the narrative they will explain why they survive so well in their habitat using key terms and data comparison from their bar graphs.